Hello friends, in this video we will consider the concept of friction. Hearing to the word friction, two things come in mind. First is a rough surface and another is resisting force. Means a resisting force created or induced due to this rough surface. Now let us see the definition of friction. When a body slides over another body, a force is exerted at the surface of contact by the stationary body on the moving body. This resisting force is called the force of friction and acts in the direction opposite to the direction of motion. Let us see a diagram to understand this. See, this is a block of weight W. This is a rough surface and this is applied force P. Now let us see the definition again. When a body slides over another body, this is a rough surface. This is a block that is sliding over this surface. Slides over another body, a force is exerted at the surface of contact. This is the surface of contact by the stationary body on the moving body. Stationary body is this this surface, rough surface, and the moving body is this block. This resisting force is called the force of friction. Means here should exert a force which is known as friction and acts in the direction opposite to the direction of motion. This is the direction of motion, so the direction should be opposite, so it should be in this direction. This force is known as friction. In other words, it can be explained as a force P is applied on the block in the direction parallel to the surface of contact. An automatic force, that is friction, is induced in the opposite direction of that applied force. So friction is a force which is applied in opposite direction to the applied force and between the contact surface between the sliding body and the stationary body, that is the moving and the stationary body. Now let us see the types of friction. Friction is generally of two types: dry friction and fluid friction. As the name suggests, here the contact surfaces are dry and in this case they are fluid. Dry friction is further of two types: sliding, which we considered here, this sliding, and rolling. Sliding when two surfaces slide over each other, and rolling when the sliding surfaces are rollers or balls. So that is rolling friction. In fluid friction, there is a concept of viscosity, which we will take up later. Now friction is also called as a necessity evil. It is called so because it is a necessity as well as evil. It is a necessity. See, all the basic activities like even running, walking, swimming, all are possible due to friction. If we see, also frictional brakes, clutches, belt and rope drivers, holding and fastening devices, all working are possible due to this concept of friction. So it is a necessity. In case of evil, it causes wear and tear in machines, loss of power, which ultimately leads to huge economic losses. So it is considered an evil in this way. So it is usually refers as a necessary evil. Now we take another concept in friction, that is static and dynamic friction. Static friction definition, let us see. The static friction is a frictional force that develops between the mating surfaces when subjected to external force, but there is no relative motion between them. In case of dynamic friction, which is also known as kinetic friction, The difference between these two is that here there is no relative motion. In this case, there is relative motion. Let us see the diagram again for better understanding. Static friction definition says that when a frictional force that is developed between these two surfaces when subjected to an external force but there is no relative motion between them, means a frictional force which is generated between these two surfaces when this force is applied but there is no motion, means this block continue to stay at rest, then this friction is known as static friction. But if this block start moving, then it is called as dynamic or kinetic friction. So the difference between these two is the relative motion. In case of static friction, there is no motion. In case of kinetic friction, there is motion. Generally, the value of static friction is more than kinetic friction. This is again better understood in the plot between friction and applied force, which is like this. Now we consider the plot. I draw it again. See, it is a plot between friction and applied force P. Since the value of Fs is greater than Fk, so it is plot like this, that Fs is a point above than Fk. Now let us see this plot. There are basically three conditions: 0 to 1. This 1 to 2 drop is uncertain. I'll tell you later. This 0 to 1 and 2 to 3, or this 1 to 2. Let us consider all these three transitions in the graph. Initially, if we see there is let's see the condition. Initially, when static condition prevail, no motion of block. It means initially the block is stationary when the P and F balance each other. Now see, when this applied force increases, then due to this proportional increase in this, friction value also increases proportionally. This is shown from point 0 to 1. This shows a direct relationship between P and F. When now at point 1, it is a maximum value of F. Let us see. There is a limit beyond which friction force cannot increase. Hence it is maximum at that point, that is called limiting friction. At point 1, it is a maximum value of friction. When P is increasing, F also increases proportionally. But at a point, the value of F becomes maximum. That is, a point is referred as limiting friction, beyond which it stops increasing. And because if it do not stop increases proportionally, the body cannot come in motion. So there is always a maximum value, that is generally 1, because friction always lies between 0 to 1. So this value, after reaching this value, friction stops increasing, and when this value is attained and we continue to increase the value of P, the value drop, and this drop is uncertain, and the body continue to become in motion. That is represented from point 2 to 3. This point represent motion, that is this value is referred to as kinetic friction, because as I told that kinetic friction is the value of friction associated with motion, and when there is no motion, that value is known as static friction. So this was the concept of static and kinetic friction, as well as basic definition of friction. We will take up more concept in next video. Thank you.